always sits right. All right, we can just check back in as we take votes and stuff to see if she's come back into the meeting at that time. All right, then we'll go ahead and it's 9:31, so we'll go ahead and convene the meeting. The meeting started. Call the meeting to order. We got confirmation of quorum. Agenda review. We do have 6 consent items. 1, 2, 5. Looks like 5 or 6 informationals, which are some of our ones that have the most pertinence, and then we have a couple closed session items, and we should be able to get everybody out on time and back to the grindstone that we're all working in this federal shutdown. So I'll then move on to public comment on items not listed on the agenda. This would be the time to speak on that. Have any speakers? Anything in the chat? Okay. Not seeing any, not hearing any. We'll go ahead and then we'll move into our first item, and I believe that's our action items associated with the consent calendar.
The approval of the minutes and the action item from the JPA board meeting.
So this is Holly Murphy. I'll go over the action items from the meeting minutes first, and then I'll go over the contract items and other things up for consent today. The first 3 action items from our September meeting minutes. The first 3 are ongoing items, so those will actually be covered in November. That's quarterly financial update and the quarterly report for offshore statistics. The 4th and 5th action items are related to benefits CAL. The first being related to research and task notification when an appeal is requested through benefits CAL. And then the second one related to benefits CAL is to provide more information on why people drop off in the application. So I'm going to look to our benefits CAL team, Fred, owner, if you have an update on those, or if we'll be covering them later in the agenda as part of the benefits CAL update.
I can actually take that briefly, if you would like. Sure. Sorry, what?
I said, go ahead and give your update, and then we can always expand on them in the greater point on the later slide.
Okay, great. It's just a quick update. But yes, we are going to include more of those drop down or drill down, variables in the upcoming QSM share out, which will be in December. So that one is in progress.
Why people are dropping off. She's referring to, I think,
one of the items in the share out. There was a question about why people are dropping off, but it was part of the share out that we had for the customer behavior using the benefits card.
yes, yeah.
The next action item was related to adding targets. Marla, this is your request, adding targets to monthly performance trends. We did do this. You'll see it later in the slide. Think of it as an evolution. We'll continue to work through some formatting. Sure, you can read it. It's pretty small font. We'll keep working on that. Action item 7 was for my team to send a CIT with revised projections for county share of costs as it related to the impact of participation rate changes for Top Fresh per HR1, and then there was a DCL 2550 associated with that. We did issue 2 CITs. The first was on September 18th. That was to provide the background and give counties a up that was going to have an impact. And then CIT 120-25 we issued on September 24th with the actual projections within a special version of what we call the county cost workbook. And so we applied the funding participation rate changes. Those details are included in that workbook that is with that CIT, and it is posted on calcost.org. It's issued to all our fiscal contacts. And we can talk more about that with our pro financial update, and we also will be having conversations with in our quarterly fiscal meeting that we have in November. The last action item
So
is.
Holly, just on, I know that the focus around that was HR1 impacts and how that actually shifts shift costs, which we certainly all kinds be aware of. I just wanted to ask also, is there anything else that may be resulting from our federal shutdown right now that might be impacting the same areas that's noteworthy?
Not on the budget. We did get approval of our operational advanced planning document, but of course, the cash flow, which is on hold for the project budget, and so that may impact the payments that we do on the.
So apparently there's somebody typing that's causing issues with hearing for people on the phone.
Oh, there's sensitive mics, so yeah. Okay. Refrain from that. And right, we got pins.
Old
And
school.
then
That's
the last action item is multi-part. Julie, you wanna handle stuff on that?
Yeah, so the first part was on the monthly report on what is caused and the impact, so that will be ongoing as there is trade-offs right now. We don't have any things that are being stopped in the immediate short term. But as we activate the work groups, we will be continue to update, because that'll be a standing action item going forward on the work groups for the 5 that we're gonna be talking about later. There was the other, Sandeep is under this one, but the providing an overview of the proposed lake house, again, that's a work group. And we will be sharing that as that work group is now going to be activated here in the next couple of weeks. And share a little bit more of an overview on what that's like. And then in terms of the process for the SMEs, Karen, do you want to share that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, so we are with the work groups, we are incorporating some of that processing in terms of what requirements they think they might have, input that they can provide as part of those work groups as we move forward.
Yeah, and then one of the pieces was to include the state in these meetings due to the
Absolutely.
policy impact, which is absolutely already.
Question there. Can you name the work groups?
We have the ad hoc work group, there's data analytics, there's CalFresh processing, there's ABOD,
The income verification.
and income verification.
The CalFresh processing is the error rate.
And the income verification is Medi-Cal?
No, it's true. It's income verification overall, but
Okay.
the priority of that is because of the error rate.
Okay, yeah. Okay, and then I'm glad that the work groups will have a standing item about what work has been paused. I think it'd be great to have that as a standing item here too, to let us know. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, here in the JPA meeting, we'll have
Okay.
a standing item on all the work group activities.
Oh, I got it,
Yeah.
thank you, okay.
Yeah, that'll be critical.
Next item on the consent calendar is the JPA Board of Directors meeting schedule for 2026. That was included in your board package. We are also requesting approval of the biannual review and update to the House Conflict of Interest Code. That includes updates to position titles, language and formatting cleanup, fairly minor updates. Okay, I'll try and speak louder. So with that are several documents that were included in the board package that includes a notice of.
It sounds like something else that came before the board. I thought, looking at our conflict of interest, did we do this already?
Not,
A few meetings back?
No, it's due every 2 years.
Okay.
It'll be a normal process.
are you thinking about the privacy and security agreements?
Oh, maybe that
Under
was
the PSA.
So it includes a notice of intent to amend, and there's a red line and clean version of that code. And then upon approval of the board, process will continue with the commencement of a 40-day notice.
Yeah. What triggered my memory is I thought we discussed something that it might have been tangential and it was related to the Form 700 filings and who has to fill them out. And I thought that might be related to this. Conflict of interest does have the
I
Form
think that's gonna
700s
be-
in the category.
It is.
Yeah, sorry, this is.
But I remember us
Jennifer.
talking about it not that long ago.
I think
in
we
one of our
talked about it.
meetings.
We talked
Oh,
about it.
okay.
in our review meeting.
I think we talked about it.
This,
Alright.
the
But that's
conflict of
what's
interest code does list who is required to fill out the Form 700s. And the state requires a biennial with every 2-year review and update of that policy. If we don't have any changes, then we don't have to do the 45-day noticing and bring it to you guys. But because we made changes to the list of people, like we cleaned up position titles that are required, that's why we have to go through the full process instead of just a certification that, yes, it's all standard.
And is council part of this to make sure that we're
Yes.
looking, has council looking at it? all of
Yes,
this?
they're on all
Especially
the
any
email
changes.
strings
Okay.
with the state.
Moving next down the list are the contract items, Accenture change notice 43, that includes an update for additional DHCS report support with a cost of $139,000. That's covered through separate premise funding. Contractually, we did offset that with reductions in our production operation hours, which were in areas that were less than planned, so that's a net zero change overall to the total contract value. It also will utilize just under $136,000 of the $35 million allocation for county purchases. That one is related to San Diego County's request for a county data pipeline in outside AWS services that's covered by county funds. And that will leave a balance of $9.1 million for future county purchases. The next one is the Deloitte maintenance, the M&E change order number 2. That includes $1.3 million for automation of the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, CDCR, incarceration reporting to counties. And so approval of that will leave a balance of $78.6 million for future changes. No change to the overall total contract value. And a companion QA work order for number 5 for ClearBest that utilizes $732,000 of the $8.8 million change allowance for the companion QA services. And board approval of that work order will leave $1.7 million for future changes. No change to the total contract value there. All of these changes are covered in, whether it's project, premise, or county funds, and accounted for in the JPA project budget. Back to you, Michael.
So just on the QA, are the QA associated with the specific changes within the same consent? Because sometimes they follow it in another meeting.
This is related to the CDCR for Deloitte.
And what's the county purchase on the Accenture change notice?
That one was the San Diego request for county data pipeline with AWS services.
Is that county data pipelines? Is that a term that the project uses for creating interfaces? Or?
It's in our reporting. Lisa, can you look at that?
I actually don't know why we have a new term for that one. I was looking it up myself, so I have to get back to you on that, Michael. But we
It can mean a million things. I don't know what it means.
Exactly.
It's extract. It's another word for extract. Okay. Any questions, comments from our board members, state partners on this slate of 1, 2, 3, 6 consent items that was just given in a summary overview? Not seeing any hands or comments in the chat. Not hearing any. Any public comment? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve this slate?
I'll move.
Thank you.
Second.
Roderick? Roderick?
Yes. Sorry. I'm
Bill?
Yes.
Chris, he is Chris?
Hold on, there, yes.
Yes, all right. And Francine. Oh, Francine, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here and yes.
James,
Yes.
Veronica,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Cynthia? Cynthia?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the votes, so motion passes. Okay, so then we're on informational items, I believe HR one. Is there any?
So this is Karen Rapinati, moving on to May revise in HR one. It is an ever evolving topic. We have a lot of moving parts and some not so moving parts in this presentation. So one of the current things that we're working on is the SUAS implementation that is scheduled for October 30th. So the project's been working hard to get that ready for October 30th. It's currently in test, and we will remain on time for that one, I believe. So.
I do want to note, even though it wasn't called out as an action item, that was something that had been asked of us to prioritize ahead of November 1st, when the whole harvest will expire. So we, we're able to do that, and so it will be implemented before November 1st.
Correct. We had a couple of other items that were scheduled for October 30th. Those are now TBD. We're waiting for some languages on one of the SCRs and waiting for some additional information. And so those are not going in for October 30th, pending some information from CDSS. For our December 22nd implementation, that is for the revise items for Medi-Cal. And so that will reinstate the asset limitation and also put the freeze on the expansion folks for full scope Medi-Cal. For our January 10th implementation of several things for CalFresh, those are currently on hold because we are waiting additional information from CDSS. They are waiting for information from FNS. Everybody from CDS wants to join in this part of the conversation, feel free. And so we have what we were proposing to put in for January 10th is on hold for right now. And will be rescheduled as soon as we get more information. And then for in June, we are still looking at the non-citizen definition to go into this.
Is there a CDSS rep on right now?
There is.
We could
Emily,
maybe
are you on?
give a little bit of color to that one, because I know that there's some things that are still getting definition around them. I'm just trying to figure out how much is being weighted on in terms of getting.
Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Emily.
Hi. So we're working very closely with our CalFresh partners to land final policy regarding the work requirement changes. The conversations become highly complex and nuanced. So our CalFresh team is working very closely with CalSAWs and counties to land on the specific policy nuances before we're able to finalize the policy. There's a handful of complexities that we're wanting to iron through before we can finalize a go date. So again, we appreciate the partnership and collaboration, but most importantly, the patience, as these are very complex issues that we want to do our due diligence on as we work through to finalize the details.
Okay, great. Well, I know the counties, this is really sensitive for the counties because of the workload potential impacts, and as much automation support as possible is being looked forward to. I'll definitely turn it over to speak to that. So CalSAW is at the table. CWA, I'm assuming, is at the table bringing counties in. Is that okay? And we really just want to make sure it's a great collaborative on coming up with how can these be met with all the tools available. So Marla wants to speak to this, so.
Yeah, I just have a question. Have we heard from the feds that they've canceled the California ABOD statewide waiver?
Yes, FNS released a memo that advised that any previous waivers would be inactive effective November 1st. So while we had the ABOD waiver in place through February, we had recently learned from FNS guidance that come November, the waiver will no longer stand.
Thank you. I guess so to that, to that point then, if the waiver is not in place as of November 1st, and what is the timing for these enhancements?
We do not know yet because we are pending CDSS. What we do provide CDSS is a deadline for when, you know, it moves to a new timeline. And so with that timeline for this was this week. And so we are getting ready. So for Emily, we're getting ready to send you a new timeline of when the next deadline is. So we make sure everybody's on the same page with what we're looking at.
So if we're not fully implementing work requirements as of November 1st, is that gonna cause an uptick in our error rate?
This came up during the CWDA conference at that actual session that I was a part of. And the state said, you know, technically,
Additional that we have in the hopper are longer range items for upcoming in the future, and so I won't drain all those dates. They are subject to change since they are several years out. So moving on to the next slide. Not specifically HR1 related, but generally to assist with improving CalFresh error rates. We have a number of items that we have planned for improving things like notices and helping the information get out more accurately as we move forward, and improving some of the information that we have available to counties. We have some items in each of the upcoming releases, and then we have I think it's the last one that's in the November release. That's the phase 3 for the EDC submit month. I feel like that one is moving up a little bit, but as of the time of this presentation, I submitted this, that's still accurate. So we still have a lot of things that are not necessarily HR1 related, but you know, will hopefully assist counties with some of the error rate items that are ongoing. And we do have an update on our ad hoc reporting queries, and so I wanted to hand it over to Jerry Nielsen from Deloitte and to talk a little bit about what we're doing in that space.
Thank you, Karen. So as another action item that we took out of the last meeting, there was a request to coordinate with some of the counties that have done some work on identifying populations and data sets in their respective counties to evaluate to see if we could move that out to the rest of the counties as well for a consistency, and also to, since work had been put in, to help those other counties get up to speed on what's been done. So we met with several counties, Contra Costa, Sacramento, and San Diego, and got some information on what they've been working on, and came with an initial set of queries of about 6 reports covering various aspects of CalFresh and Medi-Cal. In the last week, this week, we have completed modifying the queries so that they're usable by every county. and would pull back only their data sets. Those are posted up to the portal along with a description of the 6 items there. Beginning on Wednesday, we have begun running and generating an initial set of reports, and we are posting them as they complete. As you can imagine, there's 6 reports and 58 counties, so that's about 350 reports. Instances of reports would vary. Some of them are very large data sets, so they're taking some time. We have, I want to say, probably about around 20 counties have some sort of report up there. We anticipate those finishing in the next couple of days, and probably take over the weekend to get the initial set up there. As another piece on this next step that we're taking is we're taking the SQL that we developed for these reports and working with the Apex team to get those published out as ad hoc reports. That'll also include, as with all the Apex reports, the documentation on what the report does in the same location that the documentation exists for all the other ad hoc reports. So that'll be consistent. That should be completed in the next couple of weeks, we anticipate. In the interim, in the last couple of weeks, we've engaged with the counties, and so we've received some feedback back with some additional items and requests to take a look at in compiling data sets. So the work groups are coming up. One of the work groups being the ad hoc group. We're taking those ad hocs and there's additional information and seeding that work stream with those reports for discussion, refining of the requirements. And as we get items out of there, they will go through the various channels to be made public or be made available for the counties, be it either Apex or some other ad hoc channel. And so that's where we're at right now.
Before we get into any questions, one of the things that we shared this at the PSC yesterday, and we wanted to put it out there that these ad hoc reports, the ones that we put out, they were asked, there were some urgent needs so that the counties can assess impact, right, and kind of get their arms around what is going to be the research that's needed in order to assess, at least at a high level, what the potential impact could be. Because these were kind of pulled out as like urgent, they involve all the disclaimers of the policies. The impact is an unknown at this point as policy continues to be finalized. And so, write your estimates in pencil, not pen, just because there's the data that's actually behind it. We don't know enough to actually validate whether or not those are the true age codes, for example. And so we wanted to get these out quickly because the counties really needed to at least have something to work with. However, as we get more information around the codes and what's included and what's not, and policy gets finalized, those reports and the outcomes of those reports may change over time.
So is there something for the counties to have available on the assumptions that are built into these, so that way they can look at that? Well, not looking at SQL code, talking about a list of the assumptions, talking about what 8 codes were included and those kind of things. So that way we have I'm not talking programmer level. I'm talking
No, it's in the description.
business description.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's there, and so we'll know, okay, these are the assumptions. So if an 8 code is missing from that, we'll all be on the same page that now.
That's correct,
impact
Michael.
the data.
There was a transmittal that went out notifying the counties of the location where the sequels for each of the reports would be available, along with a listing of them, the title of the report, and the description of what the criteria was for the report, and I'll call it human language as opposed to programmer language, and along with the elements that would be coming back as well. So yes, you'll be able to take a look at that, and if there's adjustments or feedback that's we need to make changes there, you can certainly take that in.
And is there a way to funnel questions through to somebody who can help get answers to those?
They would go through the normal service desk and they get parsed out to the right areas.
Yeah, we'll be happy to respond as the questions come along. So we'll go through.
I'm sure there's going to be lots of them.
Yeah, the question that came up related to that yesterday was if there's assumptions and because I know Contra Costa was in the meeting at CWDA, And they said, well, this code, like our estimates are based on these codes. And, you know, DHCS was giving us a different set of codes. So in order to do that.
Which is
sometimes-
exactly why we need standardized reports across the whole state. That has been the problem, is that counties are doing their own thinking, the best thinking they have, and that is why we've been asking for standardized reports. We know the reports are not, you know, that there's instructions that are coming out, but we have to have the information for our communities and our board members. I'm curious, what are the 6 reports?
I don't remember off the top of my list. Give me a second to find the list.
Yeah, I'd like to know what
Go
those
to
first
the,
6 reports are. And how did you convene the ad hoc committee and who's on it?
Are you talking about the work
This was
group?
from talking to 3 counties, so Contra Costa, which is where we based most of the reports on. And then that also incorporated when we went with Sacramento and.
And we got some information from San Diego as well. It was in the same area of how they were analyzing what they believed it was at. And so that's what went into the initial set of information that we had to produce an initial set of consistent reports that would be available.
And I heard you mention an ad hoc work group.
Yes,
And-
so that's one of the HR1 work groups that we are convening, and information that we gathered for the 6 reports, as well as any additional information that we gathered will be taken to that group to help, as Jerry mentioned, to help see some of the like requirements that they might want to contribute to the ad hoc work group.
How's the ad hoc work group being convened?
We
So,
did
because
it-
so far you've identified 3 counties that you've interacted with in some way, communicated with, but will there be a call out for all counties? Because there are counties that have
Yes.
really been asking a lot for this, and I want all counties to have an opportunity to participate if they want
So
to.
ad hoc is one of the 5 work groups that we have, and we counties through the regional managers and our normal recruitment process, and pull together names from each region. And those work groups had a kickoff yesterday, and we'll be looking to, I believe their first meeting is next week.
So just to
So all
kind of,
regions will have an opportunity to have representation, because some of the
They do.
larger
Each
counties
region
weren't
has
part of the
representation.
initial assessment, we'd like to contribute.
They do, every region is participating.
there's a question from Veronica.
And one of the ad hocs is a reporting ad hoc.
Ad hoc is specifically for reporting.
Okay, thank you. And I know Veronica's waiting, so just one more thing. I do want to know what the 6 reports are, so if somebody could get that to me, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I will get that to you more.
Have it, but we can resend it to you.
The email you sent me several days ago
Yeah.
is not 6 reports. When I read it, it looks like 2 reports, so I'd like to kind of see what the 6 reports are. Thank you.
It's from Veronica and Francine. I don't know.
Yeah, I can read them out. Veronica, why aren't you reaching out to other counties to be a part of these ad hoc work groups? We are. We have representation from every region in the work group. We went through our normal process, which is we have the RMs coordinate with the PPOCs and recruit. We send out the CRFIs, what the scope of that work group is. They respond with individuals that they think are uniquely qualified subject matter experts in those work groups. Each of the regions provides those, and then they're ultimately selected and put into those work groups. So we do have representation from every single region as per our normal process there. So the large counties are not left out. They are definitely included in those work groups. All the 5 work groups have been the same process as we normally use to solicit subject matter experts.
Do you know when that happened?
Yeah.
When it
We
went through the
recruited-
process of trying to get recruited?
We recruited in, I think it was in September, either end of August or September, and we did the kickoff yesterday. And then the first 2 groups, ad hoc and the CalFresh error rate processing, will start next week. This is part of my presentation, but I'll just do it now.
I have a quick question. Thank you, Julia, for the response. I do have a quick question. So is it up to those representatives for the regions to really provide input for the other counties that are part of the region? What is that process?
What do you mean? What is the process?
Well, for the feedback to make sure. So for example, for Region 5, we have several large counties that are part of it. So if we do have San Diego, is it going to be San Diego collaborating with the rest of the regions to get feedback on this ad hoc
Yeah.
work group? We all
Yeah.
generate reports slightly differently, so I just want to make sure that I understand how participation across all counties is involved.
Yeah, and that's a great question, Veronica. We take a regional approach just because the subject matter experts are, it's up to the region to bring those subject matter experts forward. And so you have representation, not San Diego, just so you know, San Diego was related to the 6 reports that were already done. It's not related to the ad hoc work group that's kicking off. And so you all do have representation on that work group. And so the process typically is that those work groups are coordinating and bringing back information and bringing insights as a representative of the region, not a representative of their particular county.
So I would just add that our expectation would be that the regions themselves
Yes.
collaborate together to bring forward the ideas that folks might have, and that the work group members report out on what they've been doing on behalf of the region, just to help with that communication internally with the region.
Okay.
Since we jumped to work groups, we're just gonna, do work groups.
Yeah. Well, let's pause and see if there's any more questions on the ad hoc piece.
Thank you for the clarification, by the way.
So when we're talking regions, we're talking RMs, working with PPOCs of each county, come together, and they would then bring some of their reporting experts into that to look at what differences there are.
Yeah, the counties decide who the participants are collectively within the region, and put those folks forward. The counties want to give to us, and so the regions decide on their own through the regional manager who the participants are.
For the work group.
Correct.
Okay, so they could pull somebody, like for instance, they could pull somebody out of OC to be part of this,
Sure.
do that region 5.
Sure.
How many representatives from each region on the work groups?
We have right around
Veronica? You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, I thought that was coming from, her box was lighting up.
Oh, it wasn't me. I was muted.
Okay, I was like.
I think that's me.
we have in between 3 to 4 per region right now. We also have state representatives participating from CDSS and helping with that. So
messaging facility staff and stuff, doing work in the city.
Oh, that's a drill?
Yeah, or
Wow.
something. It's not, it's in the real fund.
So Karen, just in terms of, because how important this is and how divergent some of the needs are, as much as we can leverage remote capabilities that, we have teams, we have ways to kind of incorporate that if they have a rep that they want. I would want to lean towards that, just to having the option of, if there's an extra person that can add to the conversation. It's not to have everybody sit there on, mute. It's, we want to have active, engaged individuals, but we definitely don't exclude people. As much as we
Absolutely. So
can
we're just
control it,
trying to
have a
balance.
controlled,
Yeah.
a controlled process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our goal is to have folks who are participating,
Yeah.
and not just sitting in
Active,
on the
yeah.
conversation, because that's not helpful. And at the same time, trying and keep it to a manageable size group, so that we are able to have those conversations. So we start those next week. We will, our focus, so here's my slide on these. So here's the 5 work groups. 2 of the work groups have CalFresh processing and the ad hoc reporting start next week. The following work groups are the ABOT enhancements and income verification. We're a little dependent on CDSS on the income verification. That's around the Truth product they're looking to purchase. And so we would be looking at like how does that engage with households. So we're a little dependent on CDSS for when that one would start. And then finally, we have data analytics, and that one is starting in about a week and a half or so. And that is trying to improve the way that data is accessed, so by the counties, right? So the way that the architecture is today is cumbersome, and it makes it a little bit harder to be able to pull data out of it quickly. and easily. And somebody knows more about this area than I do, but I'll just say the goal of this is to make it easier for counties to be able to retrieve information, self-serve. The goal of these work groups, we're looking to do them over a period of about 6 weeks. They're very short work groups. And the goal of them is to identify and prioritize requirements. So what are the pain points? What do we want to solve for? It is not a solutions group because that will need to take place afterwards. What we want to get is what is this set of priorities, priority requirements that you have, so we can take it and be able to do some estimating, some timelining, and that sort of thing, and get them then on the path for solution. So we really want to focus people, not so much on what the solution could be, but really on what are the problems that you want to solve. And so it's a little bit different than we've done things in the past, and we're working to try and kind of put these in areas of being able to move hopefully a little bit faster in terms of getting those requirements and then being able to get them on a path, as quickly as we can.
I want to kind of thread the needle to Francina's comment in the chat. Francina, I think that is the goal for us, is so while we have these requirements, we can look at the low-hanging fruit, right, and the things that we can implement quickly through these requirements development processes. And so that's kind of the goal of it, is so that once we have the requirements on what the counties need us to do, then we can look at what we can do and what we can put out quickly, and move with a little bit more velocity on, especially around the things on the error rate, because we do agree that there's probably some quick things that we can do to have some impact.
And to add to Francina's comment, I think that's just that everybody is in a position where we're all being challenged and we need to be able to step in to the space. And we have some of the world's most capable vendors that are engaged with us. So, bringing solutions, maybe not fully baked, but things that we can actually leverage through these other channels. Yeah. I really want to make sure you guys are all there with us. And that we're being able to look at all of those things as leverage opportunities for us, because we're missing something if we're not. So.
Yeah, we have our, shortly after HR1 was passed, we started, reaching out to other states, seeing what they were doing. We've also seen other true implementations as well as some error checking tools that other states are looking at, so we can hopefully, port those over and get those pulled out.
As you guys start to see some connection of these things, I think keeping us apprised of some of the stuff that you guys are pursuing, I think would be helpful.
Sure.
Because we're heads down and then we pull our heads up to come into this, and I really want to make sure that we're at least knowing what's kind of happening. I think it gives us a little bit of hope. We need some hope that some of this stuff is tracking and making progress, because we're also trying to create hope back in the counties on where we're headed. So we're all part of the communication change, and I think that with everybody's heads down, we're somewhat missing on sharing some of the things that may actually be gaining traction. I just want to make sure that we start sharing.
We
some
are
of that
planning
stuff.
to report out on a regular basis to this group about stand with the various work groups and the work that we're finalizing there.
I think that would be really helpful. Thank you.
A couple of other slides I wanted to go back to, slide 11 and 12, because I think these are helpful slides for everybody, is that we have some outreach efforts that are coming up. So for the sewage change, we put out I think it's already went out this week, a quick guide that helps outline the new sewage updates that are going in. And then for the January 26 Medi-Cal changes, those main revised changes, we are working with DHCS to do a couple of work group sessions on some refreshers on the policy for property and how we measure that in CalSAWS, as well as a refresher on the immigration data collection pages. So asset collection, the asset verification we were doing it up until 2024, so that one's not as foreign as changing the immigration data collection pages to accommodate the changes that are effective on January 1st. Additionally, we have a broadcast that was distributed to the counties to provide additional resources available for the January 2026 Medi-Cal changes. And then finally, we have the upcoming outreach efforts for ABOD. So on that side of the house, we have a couple of sessions on October 21st and 22nd, where the customer engagement folks are holding. We've done a number of these sessions on a variety of topics, and this topic for October is on ABOD. And so we have staff who will provide the demo for that. And counties can reference it in the future if they wish. Additionally, we are opening up the PRT environment for ABOD functionality that is tentatively scheduled right now for to remain active until the end of the year on the ABOD. It will not have changes that are, it is current existing functionality because we haven't made changes other than to get ready to turn it on at this point. So anything that comes from CDSS at this point would not be in this session. We aren't able to get it in their,
Sorry.
immediately. And,
Sorry, that's me.
So depending on what comes out from CDSS, but in bulk, the functionality and all of that that's there, we had a question yesterday about, you know, the usefulness of these sessions, considering there's still changes. It is still very, very useful.
Absolutely.
These are, you know,
For a
staff
format,
are
we gotta
not
do it.
familiar with this functionality, so getting them familiar with this functionality is very helpful. We would encourage folks to attend these police sessions, get into the PRT environment. When we do make the changes, of course, they'll go through our regular testing cycles and all of that. But in the meantime, folks should familiarize themselves with the existing functionality. And then
Karen, when they do that, you guys paint the context though, that this is sort of like a performance.
yeah, so because it's a PRT, it always comes with a disclaimer, right? So it's not a production environment or anything. So we do have those disclaimers. And then we also have an ABOD quick guide and job aids that will complement the changes that are coming. So we have quite a few things going on in this space.
We do have, it looks like about Peggy shared yesterday, about 400 enrolled per session so far. And we know that some of the counties are doing conference rooms so that, because there was an ask from one of the counties if we could increase to 1,000, because this is such a critical area of functionality. And we do have the increased capacity, but it looks like we're still getting about 4.
And those are recorded, so there's the opportunity to be able to see them later. So I think I've captured all of my slides, not necessarily in order, but I'll turn it back to you, Michael.
All right, thank you, Karen. I appreciate us going into a little bit more depth. And I do encourage us to keep trying to make sure that all of us are answering questions as much as we can locally. So the more informed we are, the better. And that goes back to my prior comment about sharing progress, or if we are moving on something, any little bit of hope actually helps our board know we've got some kind of plan that's associated with this. So thank you. Any comments, questions that weren't already shared with Karen on this particular presentation item? Board members or our state partners at this point?
Can you comment on the difference or the relationship between the ad hoc, there was 2 data work groups, data analytics and ad hoc reporting?
So ad hoc reporting is on the reporting that counties are able to do on their own and create like their own reports and that sort of thing. The data analytics is really more about the architecture of how data is structured and how it potentially can be pulled. And somebody else could join.
You guys do, go ahead.
I'll chime in.
Thank you.
So the way I see is, and this came up yesterday to PSC, The ad hoc group is, this goes back to last month, you raised a request, counties have needs. And while we have done the preliminary reports, I'm sure there will be more, right? So we want to continue on that path, and then ad hoc group will, help us flush out those requirements, right? The analytics is a long-term solution, meaning one of the comment you made earlier is the consistent reporting has been the pain point for the task force project. So about 4 or 5 months back, we were looking at like what platforms, what solutions we can bring in to solve that problem. And if I remember, around February, March, when we started this project, one of the priorities for the board was reporting. So we looked at that. We've been working with Sandeep, hopefully he's on the call, to say like what platforms, what solutions, and we are looking at Databricks and other platforms to say we want to solve that problem. And if you ask me, my view is how do I kind of look into a problem of every time there's an ad hoc need, not reaching out to the CalSouth project. If there are simple needs, if counties can do that themselves in a consistent way, that is one of the things we are looking at an analytics platform. So that is something we'll probably, from a timeline perspective, I would say 12 to 18 months timeline. The ad hoc reports is truly 2-year request from last month was, I have need right now, help me with ad hoc reporting, and that's where we are differentiating between two groups.
Thank you, that makes sense. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the responsiveness.
So in simple terms, because I process things simply, the ad hoc is really the front and present and really
Right
trying to
now.
deal with now. Analytics gives us an ability to think a little bit beyond and create other things that might be
Yeah, and the way I see honestly is,
less time bound.
the CalFresh error rate, your clock started October 1st this month and goes, the next year, September 30th. So interim needs on ad hoc reporting on CalFresh error rates or HR1, let's try to solve that problem through that. And analytics is truly what I call as a long-term play to say in long run, how do we make reporting? And reporting, honestly, I've been doing this for 25 years, so it's always the pain point. So we're looking to say, how do we solve this problem in long run?
So just one suggestion is, even when we're doing long-term things, bringing an iterative set of where we're at progressively, I think back and making sure the rest of us all know, because we can take advantage of things earlier if we're actually aware and put our folks into it. I think that will be really helpful, because the more we talk about things that are years out, people are not going to engage in that. But if we're talking about it, but we actually have within the next month something that contributes to that, and that's how you're going to build it, and there is something tangible we can take away from it. I think that's what we need shoveled up and to us.
Julia had requested to create a roadmap on analytics to say, exactly to your point, to say, this is going to be 12 to 18 months. And there are various milestones as part of analytics, like purposeful data sets is one of the areas, ad hoc reporting is another area, right? We have click reports. There's quite a bit there. We got to work with Gamble as well. So we'll work with the project team and create that roadmap, make sure everyone is on the same page. And then at some point, we'll definitely bring that forward. So this is the top
I
process.
appreciate you understanding, because we're in an awkward position of we need to know,
Yeah, no,
but we
100%,
can't
yeah.
always ask. So, okay. Thank you. Sorry, my system crashed. I can't see that.
There
It's
was
like
a
chat
question-
started over.
Yeah, I think she was asking about a request that the tools could be reviewed by the project and brought forward as recommended options. That's a part of what is going to happen with these work groups. That's why we're saying if we can get the what, then the how's, that next phase, we'll be bringing those solutions that could be, that are shovel ready from the vendor. So yes, absolutely, we will be doing that, and that'll be a part of that standing item that's on the JPA agenda.
I appreciate the response. I'm not sure who is responding because I can't see the table because it's long, so I apologize. But what you're saying is exactly opposite of what I'm asking. What you're saying is that you're going to start with the what and get to the how. What I'm asking is that our vendors do this around the nation. This is not a new question for them. So if they have tools they think could be potentials, they probably already have those in mind. And my question is, can they bring them forward to initiate that conversation on viable solutions or potentials to be brought to that work group upfront to work with the why, how, and what together?
It's Julia, Francina. I think, yes, we have those conversations happening. The reason why the what is important is because states are very different, even in terms of the root cause of why they have errors, because operations are different across different states. And so the problems that they say, I won't name a state because we're talking actual states, but say the issues that one state is having and why they are getting the errors they're having is very different than why California, but we do have the data from the QC data that we have from the state. We want to make sure we take a data-driven approach so that we have maximum impact on California's error rate, rather than kind of throwing the solution at us and it actually not generating any solutions for counties. Also, the other piece that's a little different is because of the structure of, how we operate in California, most of them are just state-run, systems. It's a little different and it's a little more nuanced here because we do have various processes that vary from county to county. So yes, we do take that information, but we have to make sure that it's appropriate and it makes sense for the problems that we're trying to solve here in California. I'm not saying that we don't have those tools available, but we want to make sure that whatever tools we introduce don't just cause disruption just for the sake of disruption, but that it actually has an impact. It makes the lives of our eligibility workers easier and more efficient.
Yeah, no, I think we understand those nuances. Those are not new nuances. So I just want to respond to that. Those are things we consider every time we have something California versus the rest of the nation. But I don't think I changed my ask in the sense that our vendors have potential tools. I think that those tools can be identified up front, and how we work through which ones could work or not. Those things can happen simultaneously instead of having a conversation about what we need and then trying to figure out what tool we need. You can eliminate those tools along the way.
Yeah,
I will not, I don't think it needs to be a back and forth conversation here. It's just an ask that those tools, if vendors have ideas, Deloitte, Accenture, and Gainwell have ideas on what they already have in their existing vendors, then they can relay those over to be evaluated. Thank you.
I think to Francina's point is that there is a methodology for how you go about the systems, and you start with what and everything. We're in a position where we have to look at things that have already gone through the whats that may have already be aligned with ours, and what can you actually expedite that. And that goes back to my point about keeping us kind of informed on how, because I know the project's doing this, but we're not aware, where we're going with that. There was a public comment I saw also in there about being transparent about billing and all of that. That will, we've 100% been that way the entire time we've been on the project, and just to highlight that as public dollars are spent in other states, they're not respent for the same thing in California. So we don't, the feds don't double pay, we don't double pay. So that's a presumption that all of our vendors know, and that we hold pretty firm to. So I don't think we have a problem about transparency, but I just wanted to be responsive to that. So, okay, any other comments?
Sorry, just real quick, can I jump in quickly from the CDSS perspective? I do just want to add, we at the state level are also happy to hear any and every idea, concept, people, solutions that people have. We are talking to a lot of these folks too. We're seeing those demos, and again, just trying to make sure that we are squaring the solutions to what is the actual need. And I think as Julia was highlighting in her comments, we have a limited amount of money, we have a limited amount of time, we have a limited amount of everyone's bandwidth. And so we do need to be strategic about which of those things we move forward. But to your point, we don't need to, we can do these things in parallel. And a lot of that has been happening at the state. I know we maybe haven't had the chance to fully read out where all those conversations are. But if you do see solutions that you think are viable, definitely feel free to reach out to me. Forward them our way, and we're happy to talk to folks. But I would imagine a lot of the people that you have been talking to, we are talking to too.
Thank you, Ryan.
And Michael, I have one final question here, I think, maybe final. Can you remind me again the relationship between these work groups and our standing committees that we have?
So typically, committees will end up with well over 100 people in a meeting. So a lot of times when we're trying to work on a specific effort, like we're trying to do here, we will recruit for a smaller work group from, it's often from the committees. In this case, we did a CRFI to get from wherever folks wanted to participate. But the work group information will also get reported out to the committees as well. But often it is committee members that end up as part of the board members.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions from our board member state partners? Very important topic. Public comment, we did pick up Jen's in the chat.
Oh, I do have one other public comment. Advocates are very interested in the work groups for the CalFresh processing, ABOT enhancement, and income verification, since those have a direct connection to the customer experience. And given what's at stake, and the insights that advocates can often bring based on what we see customers experience, we'd really love to either be able to participate or have a parallel process to provide feedback. And it sounds like there's some conversations happening about that. So just wanted to continue to elevate that until we have a clear understanding of how that will move forward.
Yeah, Jen, same answer. You know, I shared yesterday that we absolutely agree, and that what's coming out of those work groups, we are going to be aligning it with the UCD process to make sure that you all are able to have visibility into it and provide input as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, I just want to move us along. We're getting a little bit behind.
25.
Yeah.
Just for those who are presenting going forward, let's keep it tight. We're over about 25 minutes.
All right, Karen Rabbit again. I will keep it super simple on this one. You can read this for yourselves. There are a variety of things going in. This is more of our general release items that are coming in. And on the next slide, we have our process that we report out on each month. So I will not drain that slide. I think the HR one was a more fruitful conversation at this point, but I will say that 2511 is Deloitte's first release. So we are looking forward to that. It is currently in test and will be delivered in about the third week of November. So hopefully it helped.
Thank you for contributing to the goal. Okay, any comments or questions? Hearing none from the board member state partners, any public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Onur from the Benefits Call team. I will be also concise in my delivery for the first topic that we are going to cover. In the past, you heard us sharing highlights on the enhancement system improvements we have been delivering on the portal side. And we will share one example from the customer experience standpoint, because we don't do the changes in a silo. We also measure the KPIs to measure the impact of the changes that we deliver. So EBT is one of the features that is heavily used by the customers, where they can check the transactions, their balances, or report any potential fraudulent transactions. And we heard the customers are requesting more intuitive features so they can see what is positive, what is negative transactions. And also if they want to report a fraudulent transaction, that would be more convenient for them. So we heard the ask and made the changes in June this summer. Also transaction they're adding to their account. Also, we added a drop-down on the EBT dashboard that they can clearly select the transactions which can potentially be fraudulent to and quantitative. I'm just sharing an executive summary for you. What we saw was after the change, customers were spending time transaction history, indicating they are accessing the information they need faster and quicker and making the decision for themselves in a faster manner. And also, we had a reduction in the manual fraudulent transaction going to the counties, indicating they are finding that drop-down helpful. Says in reducing the time they spent for both. So for the we saw a significant reduction in the always on survey for the negative, complaints about that EBT feature. So in a nutshell, we saw a really positive feedback from the customers, qualitatively and quantitatively for this EBT change. With that, handing over to Mufarrol to share an update on the release of information.
Yeah, thank you, Onur. I know HR1 is, front and center. We also wanted to, provide this group an update on where we are with the release of information. There's a couple of things, we wanted to do today. Obviously, spend some time on what's happened so far, talk about where we are today, and then we'll, hopefully dive into next steps a little bit. So release of information on benefits cal, it's a train that's been on since 2022. We've done some implementation, and as of today, that feature is turned off in production. So the code is there, but it's not really operative. Customers and CBOs have the ability to submit their ROIs. They have like all the training stuff. Customers can revoke all of their, release of information. Counties can manage release of information. So all of those features are built out. We were doing that in 2022, 2023. If you move on to the next slide, 2023 JPA, counties did call out some operational concerns as well as privacy concerns related to ROI, which is what led to this work group that we were closely working with the advocate partners, state partners, as well as our counties, starting August of 2023. In 2024, we had the ACL released. And then this year, we've been focusing on trying to review the ACL, understand what the changes are, and how does that impact our current implementation that we already have in production. Fast forwarding to July of this year, we we worked closely with our state partners, advocate partners, and counties to actually establish what those net new requirements were, and what we were asked to do was to identify if there was a phased approach in which those net new requirements can be implemented. So moving on to this slide, our proposed implementation plan, which obviously, in consultation with all of our stakeholders, we've split this into 4 phases. Phase 1A, essentially, setting those requirements, identifying the structure and the framework for us to go and do this right. So that we can, improve the county operational readiness as well as, reduce the privacy and security concerns that were raised. 1B is going to be focused around, merging the existing code. As I said, this was built back in 2022. The systems have evolved since, and we want to make sure that all of the codes, when it turns on, does not, create a problem with what we have. Phase 2 is going to be focused on those ROIs for CBOs that don't exist on benefits cal, and how do we, keep history of all of those requests from our customers and CBOs. And then phase 3 is more focused on CBOs opting in and opting out, right? Obviously, the privacy concern doesn't only end with the counties; it also for the CBOs, for them to be able to determine if they want to release their information or they want to see the released information for a particular customer. So that is where we are today. Speaking of next steps, we are closely coordinating with CDSS, DHCS, our advocate partners, our UCD teams, in order to identify how best can we get this ready so that we are ready to roll in production and, give this very important feature to our community partners who can go ahead and help our customers. Moving on, back to HR1. I know Karen actually already covered a lot of this. From a benefits cal perspective, there are some things that are on the horizon. We've split those into like the 2 big buckets, the CalFresh and the Medi-Cal. For CalFresh, obviously, ABORD is a big topic. We're waiting to hear more. And we already have a framework established for it. We are going to be using that framework in order to make the changes that will come through the policy. We already spoke about the income and employment verification, the true service that CDSS is also looking at. Of course, we want to keep an eye on not only the impacts to CalFresh, but overall, because benefits cal supports more than one program. Moving on to Medi-Cal, there's, split into Magi and non-Magi. For non-Magi, we're focusing on the asset reinstatement that's gonna go in January this year. And for Magi, we have work requirements, semi-annual redetermination, as well as cost sharing for adults in the horizon. Whew. All right, with that. Yeah, with that, I'll hand it over to Ashley for collaboration model.
All right, thank you. Took me a minute to get all those buttons working. Good morning, everyone. I'll try to make this quick. We've just got one update for you, excuse me, for the collaboration model. Pardon me. If you could put a "you are here" dot on this map, you'd see us over in the October section. This is actually a really exciting week for us. This is when the initiative requests are due to be submitted by our various advisory group leads. We've received almost all of them so far and are expecting just a few more today. And then what will happen is we will package all of these initiative requests, these ideas up, and we will send the collective group along with a change matrix workbook, which will allow them to go through, review the initiatives as a whole, and do some preliminary scoring on them during their 60-day review period. And then after the holidays, we will meet up in January. We're working on solidifying some dates right now. And this is where they will meet together and they will prioritize all of these initiative requests to give us our direction of where we'll be moving for our public-facing technology for the rest of the year. So we're really excited to take a look at them and to get them out to the advisory group for review. We will be providing a general high-level update at PSC for JPA, PSC and JPA in November, just to give an overall look of like what's the topics that are coming in, so folks know what they're looking at during their review period. And also we'll probably touch on an update in our December quarterly stakeholder meeting. Please give your folks who've been working on this, a lot of are on this call, a big thank you for going through this new process with us. They've really done a great job of researching and taking the time to dig into what they think will be the best ideas going forward for the customers that we all serve. So it's been a really fun process and we're excited to see where we go. I'll open that up or turn that back to Michael.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions from our board member state partners? Any public comment?
Hi, this is Jen from the Advocates Group. Just going back to the ROI phased implementation plan, just want to first say thanks to everybody who's been working on this. Also, just looking back on that timeline about when we were almost ready to launch and then counties were like, wait, what's this? What are we doing? And we had to wait, and now it's been 2.5 years. Is there anything else that counties are concerned about with the ROI that could impact the ability to move this forward that we should be aware of?
We can take down that comment
Take
and
that as a question.
yeah, and we'll go ahead, Jen. I know that everybody's really dedicated to getting this right. I think that that's why it's taken as long as it has. And we want to make sure it works for all parties.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure we don't end up in a similar situation where we find out that actually we're not going to do this. So if there are any concerns, we'd love to have that be shared.
Yeah, I think it's definitely on a track to getting done. It's just making sure we everything's tied off. But thank you very much for your feedback and commitment.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on to our next item. I believe is that transition update? Yeah.
Good morning, Rajesh Eliani. I'll be providing an update on M&E transition. So we've been looking at this slide for almost now last, I think 9 months or so. And two big milestones I want to highlight on this slide. So less than 2 weeks from now, on October 30th, it's our first SUA release in production. As Karen mentioned, testing has been progressing well. We hope to wrap that up probably early next week, something like that. followed by immediately, I think there's a day when Lisa's team runs the batch, and then on November 1st, we take over the production operations, which is primarily the batch operations and the level 3 ticket triaging. So, so that's where those were the two big milestones, in work for the last 9 months or so. This, as you can see on top, from 10/30 all the way through March, we have 6 or 7 releases going on in parallel, and I'll provide update on those releases in a bit. If I look at the second part of this slide, OCAT, which the transition did occur around March or April timeframe, and we've been operating in M&E mode on that one for a while. Group 2, which is the production operations, and Group 3 SCR, and then Group 4 is the ARC innovation. All those now are coming close to the transition activity wrapping up, and the cutovers are happening soon in the next 2 weeks or so. Go to the next slide. We can talk about the transition activities update. So again, the 3 groups remaining. If you look at Group 2, and this data is as of like last week. If I looked at it last night, so in Group 2, what's remaining truly is the prod ops related sessions. The disaster recovery sessions were done, or that dry run was done with Gainwell over the weekend, and it went well. They had a few things they have to sort it out, but outside of that, the cutover Group 2 is looking good. Group 3, which is the SCR activities. What's remaining is the CARES transition, and that was purposeful, kind of kept in the month of October and November. So that transition is in progress as we speak. Along with that, the purposeful data sets and then the ad hoc reporting, which Lisa's team is running right now, that transition is happening and it will come to us on February 1st. And then cutover Group 4, more or less we are done with all the activities there. And for the most part, if I look at it last few months, we've been more and more operating in trying to get ready for production and focused on the releases. So that's the update on the transition activities. If you go to the next slide. So this is a slide, and again, the way the slide is laid out is from the earliest release to all the way to March, and even the progression from the readiness is in a similar fashion. So 10/30. We'll probably wrap up early next week and be ready for a deployment end of this month. 25.11, which is our first major release in production, which we've been working for the last 7 months or so. Right now, if I look at the data from last night, the first run of the test scripts, 94% complete with a 97% passing. So that release is looking good. And again, we started work on that early, so it's coming along pretty well. In parallel, we've been working on 12.6, which is tied to COLA, 12.21, which is the governor's, the main revised items are there. So those are much further along in testing right now. And then 26.01 and 26.02 are currently in construction. Even 01, the design is almost done, and now we are focused on dev and early testing. And then 02 is the Cal years release, which is a 12-month SDLC, and there are 3 SCRs there. Actually, 2 is only with the design and build, and 1 is a training related. So the design even there is fully approved. So lots of work going on in parallel, and these releases are progressing according to the plan. I'll pause it for a second, see if anyone has questions before I go to the next slide.
I think there's questions. I want to just, if we can just pause for a moment and acknowledge the coordination between these vendors has been incredible. Like Accenture, Deloitte, Gainwell, the partnership, how they've been looking out for one another. And even now as we enter into this transition phase where the keys are being handed over, Accenture still has their resources here to look over and do back shadowing to make sure at this critical time that nothing falls through the cracks and that we have a secondary level of support to make sure this incredible amount of releases in a short period of time have some support from our central team as well. So I know this is also a very challenging time, but I think that it's shown everybody stepped up and everybody's shining right now, and I just want to express the consortium's flexibility, Accenture's flexibility, Deloitte, Gainwell, everybody's done an incredible job. So I wanted to pause and at least give a lot of kudos, as we enter into this new phase, because I do think that's worth acknowledging. Because I know there's a lot of asks, but I think there's also been a
I echo Julia's comments. Honestly, this has been better than I expected experience all along. Lisa's team has been amazing, and so it's Don from Game Up. This has been very, very collaborative. I really appreciate it.
I agree also from the board's perspective. This has made me nervous from the point that we were thinking about this kind of transition and kind of harping on controls and reporting. And I like how tightly we've been getting updates on this. It's been really good for the board to stay involved in progress, and where we have had bumps, we had plans to fix them. Stability is king. It rises above all else, and that's going to remain the priority of our project. And I do want to, thank everybody that's involved, and special thanks to Lisa and her team for doing an amazing job, because we really are dependent on our vendor transitionings, especially on the ones transitioning out of a position of a oversight position, and what kind of resourcing and care and concern that they put into something that they spent a lot of years helping us develop, build, and maintain. So thanks to all, especially to Accenture and their team for staying committed to keeping this system stable this entire time. Thank you. We are behind. Do we have any questions, comments from the board members, state partners? Oh, there are?
Yeah, but I already spoke on this. Like,
Anything anything you need to tell us in the next several slides? Okay, yeah, the slides are on record and we can read them. Okay, I'm gonna take it to comments and questions from state partners and board members. Okay, I'm not seeing any or hearing any public comment. Okay, moving on to our last item, that's monthly performance report.
All right, so Lisa Solis, I'm going to walk us through the first slide here. So this is our new look and feel. Again, it's evolving. The key difference here is we made it smaller so you can't read it. And we added targets.
Very strategic.
But if you're paying close attention, there is a red item for me to talk about. It's been a couple of years on this one. So I want to talk about it, and I promise I'll be as quick as I can while still being co-parent. Two lenses I want to look through this. One, the worker experience, and two, the technology side of things. So we had a miss on our daily prime response time for EDBC back on 9/22. That was our 2509 release day. So the target for this SLA is 99.9% EDBC transactions during the period of 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. will render within 20 seconds. We achieved 99.84%. It is a miss, that's why it's red. So from a worker experience, workers logging in the morning, if they were on the system between 8:30 and 9 a.m., again, it was a Monday morning. Mondays are always very busy. They would have noticed some system slowness. And in particular, a subset of EDBCs during that time, about 2,000 that were run during that time period, when they clicked on Run EDBC, the response took over 20 seconds to come back. In total for that day, we did do about 1.4 million EDBC runs, and in total about 20 million transactions, and I think we had over 35,000 people on the system. So regular day. But again, between 8:30 in the morning and 9 a.m., there was general slowness, not just EDBC. So that's the worker experience. From a technology side, it was a release day. We have hypercare, so we have infra, M&E, lots of people watching dials and monitoring the bells and whistles that go off when the system gets slow. So what happened was just around 8:30, it was identified that there was slowness in the system, so all technical teams were engaged. A few minutes later, the teams identified that a change that went in around task management functionality was causing the slowness. The root cause was there was a missing index of the database table. That was identified, implemented in the system by 9 a.m. and all processing then returned to normal. So it was done relatively quickly, still 30 minutes, still some slowness. We were able to avoid counties having to call in because it was identified in advance. We do know that calling in a ticket takes the time and energy and you know, it has to go through the multiple layers to get to the technical teams. So this is why we have that hypercare on a release day to make sure we can be as responsive as possible and put those changes in if they can go in during the day. So we were able to do that on this particular item. So that is the mess. It's been a couple of years since this one's been read. And people wanted me to speak at least one more time before. So that's where we're at with that. And I believe I'm handing this one over to Dawn for info.
Yeah, Dawn Wilder with Gainwell. From the infrastructure perspective, it's green. So we'll only talk about one item quickly, which Rajesh mentioned that we did do the disaster recovery test last weekend, and we completed the vast majority of it in actually record time. We did have one item related to Highland Imaging, however, that I am going to turn over to Sarah, and if you could just very quickly let folks know what the situation was there.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, we did have a failure during the disaster recovery test on Sunday. We know how important these tests are and how important it is to be prepared for a disaster. So we are taking this very seriously, and our cloud teams are engaged with resolving. The high-level explanation of the failure is that there was not enough IP space available during failover from the West data center to the East data center. And we made the decision to not manually provision for the new IP space during the test, since the changes would have impacted the stability of the solution, and so that we could work towards a long-term solution instead. But adding new space absolutely would have been done during a disaster situation. So we are considering a couple of options to resolve the IP space issue and expect to have a plan and rough timeline for implementation available by mid next week. I do want to reiterate that we are committed to resolving this issue. We will be communicating updates to the Gainwell and CalSAWS imaging teams regularly, and we've escalated this DR failure to several levels of leadership here at Highland to ensure that the next test goes smoothly. So if there are technical questions at the end of this section, we do have a manager from our infrastructure engineering team on the line who participated in the test on Sunday. Thank you.
All right, finally, benefits Cal. My team is challenging me to make this as long as possible, but I'm just going to say we've met the SLAs in the interest of time and hand it back from one Michael to another.
Well, thank you. I do want to emphasize the point of these SLAs. I know we have 99.9, and if it slips underneath that, it's still a high percentage. But we felt it. We felt the system slowness, and so the workers did know. So I just want to point out that even though the numbers may seem infinitesimal in terms of drops, it actually does get picked up by the workers. They do end up having to sit and wait. They do, and I'm really happy that the project takes it so seriously, and that we respond immediately and get things back up and operable, and we're not down for any period of a lengthy period of time. And I do take the failure in test as a positive thing, because that's where we want our failures to happen. That's the reason why we run the tests. Is I get more nervous when we have nothing but green light tests, as I think, okay, and then the one time we actually do it, there's one thing that got left out, and we find out. We learned that over time in some of our data center recovery things that we had to do in real time in the project in the past. One little thing that gets forgotten all of a sudden causes a lot of dominoes to fall. So I'm happy that got captured, and I'm real interested to see what's going to be the solution to that. So I want to thank the team for stepping up in those spaces. Any other comment or questions from our board members or state partners? Any public comment? Okay, that's the last item we have on our public agenda. We have closed session we're going to go into, and we'll come back and reconvene, and then adjourn the meeting. So we're going to pause this meeting for now, and we will be back.
Jeff, you could take over the slideshow for me. gonna go down the hall to make it.
Sorry.
We are reconvening this meeting after closed session. We have no reportable action coming out of closed session. And I think we then can convene the meeting. I don't think there's any need for any final public comment at this point. Yeah, so we'll adjourn the meeting and see everybody next month. Thank you. There you go.
Are-
Anybody going to the airport?